Here we are, we're live. Like I say, it's show 454 and it's how to create digital campaigns that makes your phone ring. There you go. Oh,
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's episode number 454. We're going to talk about some general rules that will work on creating digital campaigns that will make your phone ring. As usual, my co-host, Jonathan Denwood, has done the research for the show. He's chosen the subject for the show. He's given the show notes for the show. He's going to put them up on the MailRight channel. This is his second or third podcast. I always forget how many he does. And it is a labor of love. So I hope that some of you will take the time to say thank you to John, because he is absolutely the engine that makes this thing run. Before I go any further into anything about you, man, why don't you go ahead and explain to people who you are?
Oh, thanks, Rob. I'm the joint founder of mail-right.com. We're a marketing platform. We provide great websites, a CRM, email, and SMS messaging campaigns, and we combine that with Facebook. It's a great platform. Back over to you, Rob.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've never really done this on the show before. John has asked me to do it for years. I'm a really weird guy. I look at the market as a whole, and I got to say that right now, this platform that John built is extraordinarily well positioned. It's a minimal investment. It has got a lot of functionality in it. It is on the lower side with a higher engagement from the founder. Now, it may or may not work as smoothly as some of these other platforms. However, it is less expensive. It's built on WordPress. And if you are thinking about learning the skills that are going to lead you into really big digital success, this would be the kind of tool that might do really well for you. And I am not making any guarantees. I'm merely saying that it's possible. And so if you were going to think about if you're a new realtor, first year or two, and you're tired of getting quoted $500 to $1,000 a month for any marketing system that you look at, this is a no-brainer. Like, it really is. And you've got an engaged founder who will probably, again, I don't know for sure, I haven't worked with him in this capacity, that'll probably hold your hand, walking you through the platform, make sure you know how to use it, which is also incredibly hard to find out there. Any of you guys who've bought new systems or you're new realtors, you already know what I'm talking about. Because some of the time it's not a matter of having a good tool. It's knowing how to use it and having somebody properly give you the structure to use it. So, having said all that, my name is Robert Newman. For those of you who don't know me, I'm probably one of the industry's longest standing, most experienced voices when it comes to SEO, search engine optimization. I talk about things like CRMs and other things on my website, inboundrem.com. It is what makes me qualified to talk about things about like campaigns that are going to make the phone ring and things like that. And I've been doing it for 16 years, which makes me one of the longest standing founders that is still doing content like this that exists. So while we're going to get going on the subject here, for those of you who bore through that enormously long and very advertising-like intro into the show, I apologize. It's just the industry is just, this is the perfect time. Make the phone ring with powerful digital campaigns, unlock proven techniques for engaging audience and driving conversions now. And John, you usually look at something behind the scenes. You didn't link me the thing behind the scenes that you looked at this particular time. Before you jump into, because I'm going to have you do number one, standing out in a crowded market. I'm going to have you take that and kind of run with it. But usually you have inspiration. Usually you look at around and you go, this person or that person or this site.
That's a polite way, folks, to say I've nicked some ideas off somebody else, which is true. I just look at the content out there and whatever I think the audience would be interested in, and I try and manipulate so we add some additional value to it.
And is there somebody that inspired this?
Yeah, it was an interview. I'm surprised I didn't send you the link. It was an interview, and I forgot their names, but I'll make sure in the show notes. Jimmy, it was Jimmy. He's been on the podcast quite a
Burgess.
while ago.
Jimmy is brilliant. Jimmy
and
is brilliant.
he was having a interview with one of the founders of Curator, and they were going through some of these basic concepts of branding and marketing that really works. And I thought it's a bit further along than our last podcast, which was very 101. This moves the discussion to more sophisticated level.
For those of you who don't know him, and I'm sure most of you do, because he's actually bigger than John and I combined at this point. Jimmy Burgess is an actual real estate broker who is creating and building a platform, because I think ultimately he's trying to let agents, number one, I think he wants to do good by agents. And number two, I think he wants to let everybody know that there's an option to move to him and his brokerage and get the kind of help and training that a lot of agents need. And so I'm going to say that Jimmy is one of the very few voices I listen to. I read his content. I listen to his content. He's got some really creative, brilliant ideas. John and I accidentally nicked one of his ideas without even knowing it was one of Jimmy's ideas. And we did that 3 years ago, when we talked about a method of generating, it was like 9 million or 90 million. It was some extraordinarily high number through this prospecting method that used Google Earth. Like Jimmy came up with a thought about prospecting that was just brilliant. It's just brilliant. And we both thought it was brilliant, and we did a show around its brilliance. So today we're going to do something else. We're going to talk about standing out in a crowded market. Now, here's the one thing where I want to say is that John and I both have probably more experience directly in the digital space that Jimmy might. And that's probably the spin on our show that we're going to take on this subject, is the digital elements of this. So
I also think he's one of the more credible voices in the training influencer market. It's like 3 or 4 that I think have some credibility, and I think he's got some real credibility, and he's a decent guy, isn't he?
He really is. He really is. He's a great human. Well, I don't know how good of a human he is, but I know he's a good guy, and he's done our show, and he seems to really have some. He is the kind of sales manager and sales leader that you'd want to work for if you were a good salesperson, because he's going to give you ideas that you don't already have yourself, and then he's going to also inspire you to go out and utilize those ideas, and that's real hard to find. And I think that Jimmy does bring that to the table. And what's more, he is a generalist, which there are very few of those out there. Like he is good at talking to you about all the elements of being a real estate salesperson, psychology and digital, and how to actually go out and do the deal, how to knock on a door. Like, he's a generalist. He has a lot to say on a lot of subjects, and he generally tends to know what he's talking about. I think that's very rare, actually, John. I think he's kind of one of a kind when you take into account that he's a really high performing real estate broker. Him and Kyle Handy, maybe, I think, are the two that, and I think he strikes me as being a little more experienced than Kyle. Like, he seems to have more to say on more subjects. So having said all that, why don't you lead us into standing out in a crowded market?
Yeah, I think some of the basic marketing psychology principles, and I've just put down 4, and one is priming. Priming is the language, the photographs, the subliminal messaging that you're transmitting to your target audience. I think a lot, I don't know what Rob's going to think of this, but I think priming, I think when it comes to real estate agents, the most direct example that a lot of agents gets is around luxury marketing to luxury market. But this applies to other sectors, but they get it a bit easier when you talk to the difference between the luxury market and the normal market, where you're going to need better photography. There's a higher expectation of the website. I think you can apply this, and you should apply it to non-luxury market. But I think this is just my observation, Robert, and you might have a different view on it. But I just think agents accept it when it comes to luxury a bit easier, the concept of priming. That's why I've brought that example. And then we got scarcity. Well, you find that with a lot of marketing, online marketing, is people, they tend to feel that there's less of a risk in doing nothing, where the reality is there's a big risk in doing nothing, i.e. missing opportunity, time goes quickly. But as human beings, I think instinctively, the easy option is to do nothing. Or where scarcity, you utilize the principle of scarcity to just move the person to actually take action. Because as human beings, I believe that inbuilt into our psychology is there's a benefit of not acting on anything. It's the more secure position that most of us take subconsciously. All right. And then using surprising statistics. Well, we have a view of the world. We all have this internal view of how the world works. And surprising statistics can be disruptors. They can challenge how we see something. And it's like with animal behavior, if you've got a dog that barks, a quick snap of the fingers or quick movement can shake an animal out of a mindset. Well, when it comes to human beings, surprising statistics can shake us out of the norm we see a situation. That's how I view it. And then you've got curiosity. Well, I think we are curiosity machines. I think that's one of humanity's strengths. We are always curious. Well, most of us are. There's a few people I've met, dumb as they come, and they're not very curious. But most of us are curious. So if you can induce that in your marketing, I think that would be beneficial. And so that's my basic outline of these 4 basic principles, Robert.
So all of these things are correct, but I think that oftentimes, like, here's a surprising trend in my own videos, John. I've been discovering that the videos that I do, just me and a desk and a talking head and showing people specifically how I do something, have been getting a lot more traction lately than like my whiteboard videos and my general knowledge videos. And I think that the reason for that is simple. Like, I just really quickly Googled Jimmy Burgess and I found hundreds of posts that he's done. So, and I used the word Jimmy Burgess and Prime trying to look up something for this podcast that we're doing. And I can't find it easily. And nor did AI help me. Did not get me to the place I wanted to go. And that's because he's done a lot of content. I think everybody's done it. So I'm going to do something I don't generally do. When you're talking about priming, you're really saying you want a good introduction or a attention-grabbing photo to start your campaign off, or an attention-grabbing headline is what we used to focus on in AdWords. And with SEO, we talk about attention-grabbing metadata, which is the sentence below the subject header when you get a search result. Like, you get the search result and then you get the sentence. The metadata is written by the SEO team. So we do have the chance to basically advertise even in organic results. It's called priming or attention grabbing. Jimmy, God bless his heart, is using his own language to do the subject, to do the content. I would probably call it something different. But one way or the other, it is grabbing somebody's attention. John is not wrong. You could do that through a photo. You could use AI for these photos. You could use whatever for the photo. But what we cannot teach you is creativity. So humor grabs attention. Truth grabs attention when presented in an interesting way. And last but not least, for those of you that were really following along with what John just said, an amazing photography partner will grab attention every single day. There's a photographer whose name I forget in Colorado, who is the most in-demand photographer in the entire real estate world, because he takes these extraordinary pictures of Colorado homes in the mountains. And he has this way of lighting the homes. He hides all these colored lights, John. It's crazy. And what he does is he enhances the natural colors on the outside of the house, and he somehow puts lights in the environment surrounding the house so that the trees are lit. And when you see these photos, they look fake. They're so good, but they're not fake. They are a guy who just really understands lighting. Every time somebody lists one of the homes where they've used this guy as a photographer, they get thousands upon thousands of clicks. Why? The guy is taking pictures that are extraordinary, and that is priming, because you want to see what's inside the house based on the amazing photography on the outside of the house. And here's the crazy part, John. It's not even necessarily luxury. A vertical, like a very specific type of property, yes, but not necessarily luxury. So priming.
Yeah, the reason why I used the luxury example, because I agree with you, there's a lot, I just used it, Rob, is that our audience, I think they tend to bundle all other, and I might be wrong here, Rob, but I just feel they bundle all other into one category, and they accept luxury as a kind of separate, and they understand the materials, the priming that they're going to have to provide on the website and other materials is going to be different to every other property that they tend to bundle in one big category.
I agree. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to drop a name I've never dropped on the show before. She was put on my radar recently. Actually, she's been put on my radar many times. And she's been doing some stuff lately that I really love. She's doing some brand ambassador stuff. She's got 5,000 subscribers in the hardest market to crack into in terms of digital. That would be San Francisco. Her name is Ruth Krishnan, Krishnan. Ladies and gentlemen, check Ruth's site out. Check her photos out. Don't copy her, for crying out loud. Understand that there is a creative process. Ruth's creative process is simple and direct. It matches my philosophy with her, with a much higher level of branding acumen. In order to make a simple brand really pop, you actually need to be an incredible brand person. And Ruth is either that herself or works with other people that are. So if you want to see a simple video with simple like editing, but really moves the needle, you'll look at her. So, but priming. Second, scarcity. A scarcity is easy right now. Scarcity is so simple because most of you, over 80% of the people listening to the show right now, Jonathan, should be dealing with inventory crises like they've never dealt with before in their entire career. So scarcity, which is what Jimmy is saying, like a pocket listing, or it won't be available for long, or we have a rare listing in neighborhood name. And what I love about scarcity in today's market is I live in Van Nuys. You don't get more metro or more unsexy or unexciting than the city I live in. And I promise everybody listening to the show right now, if I was listing a listing in Van Nuys, I would absolutely use the scarcity tactic. Why? Nobody's selling in Van Nuys. Nobody's selling anywhere. So when something came onto the market, I would say it's not going to be on the market long. You should look at this now. Look at it fast before they change their mind. Scarcity. And you know what the best part is? It's truthful. Who knows, right? Scarcity. Surprising statistics. I loved what John had to say about this. I'm going to add my own little element to it. Surprising statistics are like one of the things I like about another name I'm going to drop. The guy that talks about statistics that I follow the most is usually Christoph Chu, who does market updates every month. It's central to his marketing strategy. He adds it to his website. And by the way, his pages rank for terms like Bel Air real estate. All right. So it's working really well. Him just taking a look at statistics. But what he does do is he adds context after being in the business for 20 years, reads the statistics off a screen, but then says, this might be like right now, prices are plummeting in Beverly Hills. And I'll bet everybody would not guess why. Well, there's a mansion tax in LA that just came into effect. It's 4 or 5%. And guys like stars that just weren't paying enough attention are trying to list their home. And usually famous people can list their home for a premium. And like Jim Carrey has had to lower his house price 3 different times already. And it's down like he's already down about 12 million off the original asking. That is not a small number, everybody. It is down by 35 to 40%. So when Christoph did his numbers recently, I was surprised. It was like a 20% drop in a market that doesn't generally see 3% drops. 20% in Beverly Hills. Sometimes the market does your job for you. Sometimes. And when it does, you should really call that out. Curiosity. Curiosity is like, all of you listening to the show right now might get curious. You might Google Christoph. Curiosity is a major driver for some of us because some of you might want to check my info. Go, that can't possibly be right. Like once you surprised somebody, you might not go, like that can't possibly be correct. I got to be honest with all of you. I did a double take and then I verified Christoph's information. It seemed wrong to me. It was so surprising. And it turns out that it wasn't. That's how I got onto a rabbit hole that made me find out that people like Jim Carrey, that's how I got down the whole rabbit hole. And it was only curiosity. I can't buy those homes. If the price keep dropping, maybe I can. But I certainly can't right now. And what's happening is the tax is 4 to 5% straight off the top. That's what the tax is. So and it's anything over $5 million in certain cities. And so these guys are just they at least have to drop their price by 5%, at least, because nobody wants to pay that tax just to buy the home. So curiosity will take you a long way in your marketing. The thing is, you have to have an understanding of what might make somebody curious. If you had a surprising number, a great photo, or any of the things that were on our list, they will already be curious. So it's all taken care of if you get anything 1 through 3 on the campaign, right? Curiosity will be there. And now you can say, click here to learn more, and curiosity drives the click, drives the propellant into the campaign. Another thing about curiosity, and it's not as good of a strategy as it used to be, but it is still viable, is curious about somebody who seems to be really good at what they do. Like hundreds of 5-star reviews, so on and so forth. You really want that drives curiosity, especially if you happen to be in a market where a lot of people aren't really maintaining that kind of reputation. Sometimes curiosity is just driven by results, like really good results. John, why don't you take us into the neck? Well, hold on. Let me look at the time here. You know what? We're gonna go to break. Sorry, we really overextended. We're gonna take a little quick break so that you can hear from our sponsors. No, I'm just kidding. John and I sponsor the show. We're going to take a quick break. We will be right back, and when we come back, we will have some other great subjects for you. For talking another 10 or 15 minutes about how to make your phone ring. All right. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 454. We're talking about how to create digital campaigns that make the phone ring. We just did a really long number 1 with a lot of sub-subjects. Number 2 is simpler. How do you build your trust with your consumers? John, how do you do it?
Well, I think, I I think there's two ways. One way I'm not the greatest on, because I think if you've got good testimonials and they're real testimonials, and you put effort, the MailRite system, part of it is getting testimonials out of people, doing surveys and identifying those that will give you a good testimonial. But I think having good testimonials, but the more not so obvious is, I think, something that you've touched on in other episodes about the importance of the About Us page, about story, about telling people about your background, about why you got into a particular industry, why you started your company. I think you've promoted that quite a bit in a couple of our episodes. And I see that as building trust as well. So there's the more obvious testimonials, and then the less obvious but equally powerful, which is around storyline and telling people about yourself not in a boastful way, but in a way that if you wanted to know more about Robert, that the way you would give that information over to people.
I think it's interesting that you touch on this, because I need to be really honest with you, and I need to be really honest with the audience. Trust building the way that I do it, John, has always gotten mixed results. I've actually had leaders of companies fire me or demote me because of the way that I like to build trust. It's too much honesty. I've always gotten busted for it. Because a lot of business owners and a lot of people in general think that too much detail is bad, too much information is bad. And I understand that sentiment. You get too personal, which I've definitely done on my website, and because it's my company now and I can do whatever the hell I want. But I always understood the argument. I did. I really did. And I didn't always have the highest sales numbers. I was usually 1 through 3 everywhere I've ever worked. But here's what I did have that is a little more hard to articulate. I always had one of the highest profit mixes and client retention levels at every single organization that I ever worked at. Full stop. Always. Way up there. Because when you, and John, you own a business, you know how this goes. We all would wish, we cross our fingers and we say, we want every customer relationship to run perfect. John wants that. I want that. Everybody wants that. We walk into the relationship with good intentions. It doesn't always work out that way. Right. And because of that, if you built a lot of trust in the beginning and you have a strong, integrity-filled relationship dynamic with the person that you're dealing with, I'm not saying those situations are great. I'm just saying they become more manageable. They become more navigatable for both parties, because at least there is some trust. There's the basic understanding that I'm not trying to rip you off. You may not be getting what you want, but I am not actively trying to screw you. And if you come from that place, I've always found that business relationships really become more fruitful. And every now and again, you really accomplish something magnificent where you have something that's really bad and everybody does poorly or shits the bed, or it's all just one of a kind extraordinary situations for one poor client. And they don't believe you because they're the client. And then somehow you turn it around because they stick with you. And then you have this amazing story to go along with that because you managed to pull through eventually. All of this is to say, how do I build trust with my clients? And I got to say, I'm doing it right now. I always do it, John. I try to be as honest with every single person as it is within my capability. And I don't mean just honest about giving a straight answer to a question. I mean giving all the hidden data that normally nobody would say. All the pros and cons, all the actual upsides and actual downsides. That way, nobody's got nothing on me that at all, ever. If I could think it, if I could see the scenario going wrong in some way, I say, this is what that way might be. Now, obviously, we're going to do everything in our power, and this is thing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that we've done to try to make sure that doesn't happen, but it's theoretically possible that it could happen. I actually have my clients sign a contract that says they can make no money now because they don't follow my recommendations. That's part of my contract language, because that's the number one reason why my clients don't make money, is they don't follow my recommendations.
Right.
So I protect my reputation. It's like, have I told you that? And then have I given you recommendations? And the answer is, I made you sign a contract that says I have. And then I recorded a call that says I did. So, you know, there's no, how do you build trust? I think it's rigorous honesty, John. That's all I think. And yes, reviews help and things help, but you know, the trust comes first, the reviews come second, in my experience. Like, you build the trust, and then when you want the review, it just kind of happens. Like you say, I need a review, I want a review, are you willing to review me? I've never had anybody say no. But that's because I'm usually spending all that time building the trust. So that's and I'm doing that with honesty, generally speaking. So number 3, attracting high quality prospects. And ladies and gentlemen, we're into 10 minutes of bonus time. So I'm going to do my best, because it's been me holding up this pony show right now. So I'm going to do my best to keep the last couple of subjects short. But the subjects are attracting quality prospects, and getting them to come to you, and maximizing your ROI. 2 of my favorite subjects. So I'm going to try to keep it brief. John, how would you attract a high quality prospect?
Well, I think, you know, that's one of the main pillars of this podcast is for digital marketing, you know, utilizing video, producing good content, hiring your agency if you're into SEO, evergreen content. If you're into paid Facebook, paid advertising, have a look at the MailRite system. But it's producing really good content, but also the volume, and I also think it's putting yourself in the mindset of the people that you're trying to attract. If you're an agent, it's really having that ability to really relate to your niche audience and really be able to put yourself in their shoes and then produce the content. And I think a lot of people struggle with that.
I absolutely agree. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say that attracting high quality prospects is one way or the other. Having a high quality funnel or a high quality partner, John, who's got somebody who's dedicated to Facebook, who talks to you on the creative and ad placing side, and Ylopo, who's got realtors working for them that do the same, and everybody's talking like how you draw people into the funnel in the first place has a lot to do with what you get out of the funnel on the back end when you're using that kind of paid advertising system. And honestly, realtors can't afford what would be the best way, which is probably really long form commercial like content. So if you want to do that, you kind of got to learn it on your own. But guess what? If you manage to do a really informative video and then get people to stay engaged with you and really connect with you, there's absolutely no doubt that's one of the most sweetest types of inbound marketing that there is, because people already feel like they know you. They just do. And when they call you, it's a conversation with a friend, and you oftentimes have an enormous closing ratio, because most of the time people have gone down a deep rabbit hole with you. You've already got content in other places that they've watched or read or whatever, and they know roughly what you're offering or what kind of service package you offer as a real estate agent, what kind of value you bring into a relationship with your clients. All those questions are already answered. All you got to do now is simply find or list the home and get the top value for the client, which is what every single real estate agent I've ever spoken to wants. They want a lead that's like ready to go. And all they've got to do is go out and do the mechanics of the real estate transaction, like the negotiation, the listing of the home, the getting of the best price, so on and so forth. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to go back to number 3. You know what the funny part is, John, is that in my experience, especially over the last 5 years, a huge percentage of what just doesn't get talked about a lot is the establishing of trust along the way, using funnels and things like that. If you call John, you call whoever, please make sure that you, in your head, think to yourself that somewhere along the way, you're going to have to, at minimum, do a 30 to 60-second bit of video to give to your partner to let them establish a connection between the person entering the funnel and you. That is my only complaint about paid advertising people in general, is that they oftentimes do not leverage, they don't push the customer to make sure that there is a physical video presentation somewhere in the ad funnel.
You're totally right, but it's really linked to what you said about having it in your contract, that you can only encourage enough, you can only advise enough, but people, like in your contract you have in it, we can't be responsible if you don't follow our advice. You can't
Correct. blame
us if you don't get the results that you're looking for. And it's a bit, we always encourage people to do video, but it's extremely difficult. Some people just don't want to do it, Rob.
Yeah, and that is 100% true, because we say it continuously, we have somebody sign an agreement, yet, there's a certain percentage of my clients just don't do anything. So I feel you. Last is maximizing your ROI. John, I'm going to continue on with this one.
Yeah.
Maximizing your ROI. I got to tell you, everybody listening to the show, the first step for all of you is to make sure that maximizing ROI, make sure that here's the thing. You got to understand where your money is coming from. And you know how you do that when we start talking about lead generation is you make sure that you talk to your customer and you make an educated guess about where the lead was initiated from. Like in my clients, I say anything that they found, if they say they found you online and you're not doing paid advertising anywhere, it's simple. I was responsible. Google. They found you on a Google search somewhere. They may not remember where. That's fine. They may have followed you for years. That's fine. If they were referred to you, you write down that they were referred to you. And then you say, did you go to my website and use my tools? Maximizing ROI is understanding where your consumers are receiving value from you. That's a huge percentage of it. Who and where are they looking along the way to hiring you? That way, part of maximizing ROI is making sure that you are not wasting your money in areas that do not carry a maximum result for you. Another way to maximize ROI is make sure that you're tracking, like many realtors have like 15 lead sources. And when I talk to a realtor, John, they're usually hard pressed to say they have one. And that's because they're not taking into account places like HomeLight and their Zillow profile and other places where they completely and totally list themselves with the expectation that somebody might call them. That's like a realtor has 15 or 20 of those. Every realtor has them. And so you go, what of those sources have you ever gotten a phone call off of? And only one realtor in 100 is able to answer that question. It's staggering how bad the tracking is for real estate agents. And if I was a professional salesperson trying to get my phone to ring, the first question I'd want to know is, how did my phone get to ring in the first place? And I ask that question first. Every single person that ever calls Inbound REM, how did you find me? So maximizing your ROI comes to understanding where your ROI is coming from first and foremost. And then once you know that, once you understand where all your ROI is coming from, you should be moving around your expenses into the higher profitability buckets. In other words, if you spent $10,000 on one kind of marketing, got you one deal, and you spent $5,000 on marketing and it got you another deal, the question is, can you spend $5,000 more in the place that got you the one deal? You need to look at where and how your revenue was created, and then you need to invest in the place that revenue was created more, and you need to look for the lowest cost of acquisition over time. That's another important conversation, because my clients see the best result to like year 2. So and so I need to tell them this strategy, but then I need to say you need to wait. Some of my clients who are doing hyperlocal, they get like 5 times ROI in the first year. But that's not common, and the good part about like local is that while it's not going to funnel all of your lead flow, like it's not going to probably keep a busy agent completely busy, it is incredibly high ROI, making this a very relevant conversation because the calls are cheaper when you do LSA ads. The actual acquisition of organic consumer calls is cheaper. If you do 2 deals and you're spending $5,000 a year on me, but those 2 deals net you $30,000 in commission, guess what? That's a 6-to-1 ROI. It may not be the most impressive form of lead generation that you've got, but it's probably higher ROI. That's my point on all of this, John. Take it away if you'd like to add something.
Yeah, I think the worst return on investment is using, but it has its place, don't get me wrong, folks, is like paid advertisement, paid lead generation from realtor.com or Zillow or similar type platforms. I think the next one is paid advertising on Facebook or Google. But if you can combine it with organic video, with content on a decent website, on your social media, organic outreach, and combine it, I think that's the best. But I honestly do believe that there is different levels of getting the best return on investment, and I think the worst, but it's still understandable why people use it, are the paid platforms like realtor.com and Zillow, and then you work down, but they tend to take, there's a longer return, but the return, it's a higher quality and it delivers time and time again. That's how I look at it, Rob.
Well, if you're lead flow and maximizing, just one last thing, like, listen, diversification amongst leads is really important. If you do really well with a hyperlocal campaign, maybe you do 3 to 5 deals a year, maybe, right? But that's not enough, John. That's not enough to make a living. It's just a very high ROI form of marketing that gets the phone to ring every once in a while. You still may need to look at Zillow or you or anybody else to get the phone ringing on a more regular basis. If you're a broker, holy cow, you got to be in paid advertising. You got to make the phone ring a lot. You damn well should know. Yeah, I understand, Robert, that it's lower quality leads. I get it. My people need to be calling something. I have 50 of them. They got to have I've got to make them like get out there and go through the sales activity process, because they will stumble into some business as long as I can get them in motion. And so that is a different subject. And maximizing ROI inside that process is really about like funnel optimization and scripts and all the things that 99% of all sales trainers talk about. And there's no problem with that. The only thing is you should also be blending it with higher ROI types of marketing, such as SEO, which will deliver, 5 to 1, 10 to 1, 20 to 1, 30 to 1 on average. And then you've got, but it isn't really the driver of a full-time outbound sales force. It's just not, because you'd have to build your business from the bottom up to make that happen. In other words, build a really well-performing organic site and build a sales force around it over time. And that does work. I'm doing it with Inbound REM, but it takes years. So anybody who's interested in growth wouldn't do it that way. They paid advertising. Anyway, maximize your growth. For everybody who's watching the show, if you'd like to really talk about maximizing your ROI, if you're deep in that conversation with yourself, I got to tell you, I'm a really good call to have. You should be talking to me. So call me at just go to inboundrem.com, schedule a call with me. Don't call me directly. Schedule a call with me on my calendar. And you can do that on my services page or my about page. Both have links to my calendar a galore. Okay, or you can email me at robert@inboundrem.com if you just want to ask some questions before you book an appointment. John, if anybody would like to reach out to you based on any of the subjects that we covered today, how would they go about doing that?
Oh, thanks, Rob. Yeah, I think the best thing is to go to the mel-wright.com website, and you can book a chat with me on Zoom. The main thing I want to point out is we're one of the platforms where we offer two choices. Our system is really maximize in utilizing Facebook, but we offer the tools that you can run your Facebook campaigns yourself and utilize our tools for that, or we can do the campaigns for you. So you have two options, and we believe in giving options. Back over to you, Rob.
Beautiful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's been today's episode of the Mail-Right Show. John and I are so thrilled that you join us. We do a lot of conversations with just the two of us. It's hard for us to get excited about guests unless they're, super duper rock stars. So we haven't done as many guests lately. Having said that, if you feel like you're a super duper rock star and you'd like to come onto the show, you can go ahead and email John at do me a favor, drop the right email address for these guys.
Yeah, it's Jonathan, JONATHAN at Mail, MAIL -right, RIGHT.com.
Beautiful. And John is the one who handles the booking and the questions and things like that, but he'll go ahead and sign you up to the show. We always appreciate all of your patronage. We appreciate you listening to the show. We hope that you continue to get some value from us. That's all I got, John.
We'll see you later, folks. Bye.